اهدنا الصراط المستقيم.
How do we stay away from extremism in Salafiyyah? We see people refuting each other. Is any association okay? So we deal with the first part. How to stay away from extremism in Salafiyyah. So the first thing we need to understand is we need to understand very, very clearly that the da'wah Salafiyyah, the Salafi da'wah, is not a da'wah of extremism. And extremism in Islam means two things. It means al-ifrat wa tafrit. It means falling short, and it means going too far, or going too far and falling short. Both of these in Islam are considered to be extremism. So don't think that extremism in Islam is just going too far. Going too far is extremism, and doing too little is also extremism. And so our da'wah, the da'wah to the Quran and the Sunnah, according to the understanding of the Salaf al-Salih, the pious predecessors, this is a da'wah that is neither too much or too little. Rather, it is what Allah Azza wa Jal described, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We made you a middle ummah. Now, there's no doubt that we first of all need to understand what is the source of this da'wah, what's the core of this da'wah. And the core of this da'wah, very simply, is to follow the Quran and the Sunnah according to the understanding of the Sahaba and the generations about which the Prophet ﷺ said, خَيْرُ الْقُرُونِ قَرْنِي ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ. The best generation is my generation, then those who follow them, and those who follow them. So this is what we want. We want to be from the people that follow the Quran and the Sunnah the way that the Sahaba and those who follow them in good used to do it. Now, doing that, there are going to be matters of ijtihad. And this is very important to understand, that the issues of who is correct and who is wrong in terms of individual people, I'm not talking about as a whole, as in, is this person, did they go too far? Did they leave the Sunnah or they didn't leave the Sunnah? There are always going to be matters which are masail ijtihadiyya. They are matters of ijtihad. And a number of scholars mentioned that. I will try to bring you, if I can, I had written down, if I can find it. Let me see if I can bring it here. I had written down a list of some points from it. And from those who mentioned it is At-Tirmidhi. He mentioned it. Also Al-Mundhiri mentioned it. Shaykh al-Islam mentioned it in Raf' al-Malam. And he also mentioned it in Ar-Rad al-Bakri. Al-Dhahabi mentioned it as well in his book on Dhikru Man Yu'tamad fil Jarh wa Ta'dil. Sakhawi mentioned it. Amin al-San'ani mentioned it. And a number of other scholars of Islam, all of them mentioned that these matters of individual people who strayed from the Sunnah and who didn't stray from the Sunnah, they are matters of ijtihad in which people differ, like the differences in fiqh. So you will get times when people differ. But what's very important is to do two things. Number one, to attach yourself to the major scholars and the people of knowledge. Because ultimately, individuals who are junior students of knowledge and people who are just beginning their da'wah, no doubt, we make mistakes, no doubt. So you attach yourself to the senior students or the senior scholars, and you become somebody who is taking major issues from them. That's one thing. The second thing is that you don't go to extremes in issues where the matter is a matter of ijtihad. For example, a person made an error, and that error might have taken them out of the Sunnah, and it might not have taken them out of the Sunnah. But it's an error, it's a mistake. So before you go into that level of saying about it that this person is mubtadi'un, dalun, mudil, and you bring all the words out for them, before you do that, it's very, very important that you first understand, you take some time, and you don't rush into something in the first moment, to understand what that person said, whether it is a basic mistake or whether it's a serious mistake, whether it takes them out from the sunnah or it doesn't. But you don't rush into these matters. Now, the second part of the question is any association with Ahlul Bid'ah blameworthy, like quoting from them or meeting them and being seen with them? So in general, we don't mix with Ahlul Bid'ah. That's our general position. That's the position of the Salaf. We don't mix with those people. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَإِنَّ كُلَّ بِدْعَةٍ ضَلَالَةٍ. Every single innovation is misguidance. And he said, إِيَّاكُمْ وَمُحْدَثَاتِ الْأُمُورِ. Keep away from everything which is newly invented in this religion. So that's the basic principle. At the same time, in terms of quoting, we have to understand that not every time that you quote from Ahlul Bid'ah is this blameworthy. For example, there were people among Ahlul Bid'ah who were known for certain sciences, perhaps, for example, Usul al-Fiqh, for example, or the Arabic language, and you may quote from them in that limited context, not in the sense that you quoted for them in everything or that you brought the misguidance to the people, but you might quote from them a benefit in the language, or you might quote from them a benefit in the science that they were an expert in, and that all of the scholars of the Sunnah recognize their expertise in it. And that's why we still teach books like Al-Waraqat by Imam al-Haramain al-Juwayni, despite the fact of what he brought in terms of misguidance and so on that he brought. There's no doubt that that book itself, it doesn't have that level of misguidance in it, and it's a beneficial book. The scholars praised. So there is, in certain circumstances, you can quote like that, but you take it from your teachers to tell you what to read, what not to read. You don't just read everything anybody says. You don't just read every single book that somebody wrote, or somebody says, I'm just studying the Kashaf of Zamakhshari or something like this. Someone says, I'm studying any book. No, your teacher guides you as to which book is good enough for you and which book you keep away from. But there's sometimes a need to quote people. As for being seen with people, there is a difference between associating yourself and accompanying someone and being seen with someone. Because a person could be seen giving nasiha. A person could be with somebody, they didn't know who that person was. And that happens a lot. You might meet somebody, Salamu alaikum, how are you? This is our teacher, mashallah, very nice to meet you, Sheikh, where are you from? And you don't know anything about that person. Yani it's not required that you should know every individual you meet. And the asal about a Muslim is what? The basic principle is a Muslim should good person. Yani if I meet a Muslim, do I treat them like a bad person or a good person? Generally, I treat them like a good person. But you should not associate with someone who is an innovator, who is known for their innovation. No, you don't associate with that person. Again, a person could sometimes be in situations where they went to a masjid to give da'wah. Someone was sat next to them. They don't know who that person is. Or they saw that there is a maslaha rajiha in sitting in that gathering. There's a key benefit, such as they wanted to make inkar, or they wanted to guide the people. So they went to that masjid and they called the people to the sunnah in that masjid. It could happen. And these are issues that some of it is related to ijtihad. It's not a black and white issue. It's an issue where, for example, if I'm invited to a masjid, and that masjid is a masjid of bid'ah, right? It's not a masjid upon the sunnah. But they invite me and they didn't put any conditions upon me. They didn't say to me, you have to speak about this or that. They didn't say to me, don't talk about this. And I went there to refute the misguidance that is there. This is a matter of ijtihad. It could be praiseworthy, it could be blameworthy. I could say it's not the right thing to do because you went there and people thought you were part of them. But it could also be said it was the right thing to do because you went there and you guided, by Allah's permission, these people, and you gave them da'wah. So the matter is not like so crystal clear that you say somebody is an innovator because they went to one masjid or because they once stood with a person. Maybe they didn't know who that person was, or maybe they were advising them and so on. So I'm not saying that we don't leave the principles. No, we don't. But just be careful to make sure about something before you jump into it. You say this person is an innovator because he gave a lecture in that masjid. How do you know, subhanAllah, many times you spoke to the person, he said, well, I didn't know anything about the masjid. Just somebody told me it's a nice place and would you please come? So I came. Or somebody says, yes, I know it was a bad masjid, it was not upon the sunnah, but I went there and I told them about the sunnah and I gave them an important reminder. And another person says, yes, I went there, but there was a reason. So you don't jump into things too much. Instead, be patient, let things become clear. And also, the last way I will answer this is I will say it's not necessary for a junior person to always have an opinion about something. Like some people, wallahi, they make imtihan upon you, like an examination. What's your view about fulan? What do you see about this person? Why do I have to have a view about everybody? Like I can say, I don't know. Wallah, I don't know who that person is. Brother, you are doubtful. We doubt your Salafiyyah because you don't know who this person is, or you don't say good about them or bad about them. Wallah, it's not necessary you should have a view about every single person. Brother, subhanAllah, some people you know, some people you don't. Some people you have experience of, and some people you don't. So don't feel pressured that you have to answer every time about what's your position on this person. Say, I don't have any idea who this person is. Because sometimes you jump into something, وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. Don't follow what you don't have knowledge of. Sometimes a person jumps into something they don't even know. They hear some students are talking, what's your position? Oh, you know, Sheikh Fulan said, and what do you think about it? Say, well, I don't know anything about it. And it just let me give some time to understand the issue and then I will speak about it. No, that you should not jump into something without knowing it properly. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best.